You should always be rewarded if you're early, and if you're early, you just got rewarded. I came too early, she said. But she also came all the way from America. It was a blind date with destiny. Sounds of Tiawamutu was a truly sacred breed, and the parents were divorced. Who sings it? Let us know. The rest of the better rock in the town. Tell us if it's too loud. Tell us if the sound is good or bad or dog shit. How is our sound going as I've got the spectacles of wisdom on? As I look into this Cyclops camera. What do we got? Have we got some thumbs up here? I've been going through the recruiting process since October last year, says Raymond. Finally did my PFA. I hope you passed. What scores did you get? Now waiting on medical. They're taking over 3 months and still haven't cleared me. Sound is fine, says Dave E. Stand fast. He's going to be the commander of the French Foreign Legion. No, they're not invited, are they? It's all AUKUS. Sorry, the Five Eyes. Sound is fine. How was the singing? How was that, Dave? It's good to have you all here. We're about to get into it. I've got some video. I've got some clarification on what's going on with foreign troops being allowed to come into Australia to join our famous military on the 80th anniversary of D-Day. God bless their souls for those 10,000 who lost their lives and the 10,000 Germans that also met God that day as well. Roger Ramjet, he's our man, hero of the nation. Corona C2, command and control. G'day, mate. And if you're out there, Tony White, it was great to see you today, to talk to you in your Cotton Eye Joe shirt. My arm is still, as you know, unshakable, so to speak. But that might be a lifelong thing. Singing is making Mr. P turn in his grave. Absolutely. And we haven't had an update on Steve Bryce at the moment, which is heartbreaking because for those that don't know, no sooner did he retire than he was basically told he's got Parkinson's and he won't be able to ride the Harley that he just bought, had seizures, and on Anzac Day, he had a catastrophic seizure and hasn't woken up properly since. Not out of it completely, but also not with us. They don't know how much damage he's done. He cannot speak. His son reached out. Liam, God bless him. You could only be so proud to have a son as good as him. So prayers to Steve. And this week I'll be reaching out to him to try and get some clarification on what's going on. Kyle. Hey, Kaz, I just passed my psych test yesterday. I got an interview on Monday morning. Congratulations, Kyle. Let's have a communication before we get on. For anyone that needs that one-on-one conversation, counselling, or maybe even considers a public speaking event, I'd be happy to do that for you. The link should be there. Jump on Patreon when you can, if you can. The amount of people we've stopped from hitting the rocks from making a silly mistake. There we go. Hi, everyone. Hi, Kaz. Hope everyone is well. Yep. My arm is feeling like a Lego arm venom, but other than that, couldn't please a girl. But I did save the day today. A little Arab boy was choking on what I only perceived to have been something vegetable. And at the shops, and all the ladies were standing around him like cackling hens, not doing shit. So I went over and for a little while I looked like Joe Biden. I had this little kid, picked him off the ground, picked him upside down and shook him like a fucking, what do you call him, pinata, to try and get his lollies fall out his ass. And they fell out of his mouth and I saved the day. Proof, Kaz is not racist. Saved that Arab boy. He won't be watching us at the moment, but geez, that poor kid was panicking. There we go. There's some good news. I have enlistment day the following Monday. Pazza mono Pazza. An individual, single version of. It's good to have you here tonight, team. Who's going to be the first person to maybe donate a cup of coffee for me so that when this is done, I can go and eat some raw chicken? Tomorrow I'm supposed to be going to Luna Park, the land of the big smile, to take my daughter there because the last time we actually left the Bronx, ended up in bloody hospital. Yeah. We're going to get into this in a second. You just want to watch the video first for some clarification and some annoyance from a reputable source that seems to hate Australia, but is paid for by the taxpayer, called the ABC, as they attack our ministers. And we get some clarification, because what initially came out for those that are serving and those that are looking at serving was foreign troops. They accidentally wrote all nationalities were going to be allowed to come and join the Australian Army to fill the numbers that they need to get us to the 80,000 or beyond, etc. Now, there's a problem with that. Before we get on the video and the information, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share something with you just so you see how dangerous that statement is by opening this up to everyone, which should never, ever happen. So, where are we? Okay, for starters, pop question. How many countries, do not look at Google, how many countries are currently in the Commonwealth? Just the Commonwealth. If you were to say, okay, Commonwealth forces can come and join the Australian Army, how many is there? Who's the first one to get it? Let's see. Australian. Because allowing non-citizens due to low numbers pisses me off, as I've been trying to transfer from reserves RA for 7 years. And they've sat on my application and not approved it every time. Australian, we need to have a conversation. Let's see if we can't get to a bottom of this together, hey? You know, is this for Army only? Paris, Nelson. I believe it's for Army only, but it may be for the numbers for Airforce and Navy as well. I heard it was all nationalities to the Australian ADF. It's not. It's been changed, clarified, and you'll be able to see that in a second. I've done the homework for you. 146, no, Dave, not close. Okay, I'm going to put it up for you now, team. Boom. Where are we? Bam. So 56 countries. But what I want you to do is look at what I'm about to show you now and think, how much danger would have this done if they actually ever said, we're going to open this up? It'd be catastrophic. We'd lose our country, we'd lose our army, and we'd be overrun, So I didn't know there was 2.5 billion people in the Commonwealth. That's a third of the world is actually under Commonwealth. That's a lot. Start in Africa. Righto? So, for starters, sorry, but other than South Africa, and specific people in South Africa, no one should be automatically allowed to come here at all as part of this scheme. No one in these countries. All right, continue down. Asia. Bangladesh. Okay, so India, Malaysia, Maldives, Pakistan, Singapore, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's in all sorts of financial troubles. I could understand why a refugee would want to come here. Pakistan shouldn't be allowed to come here. India should not be allowed to come here as part of this program. The reason is you're talking about a country, especially India, of 1.4 billion people. You'd end up with 90% of them living in Australia if they could come where the climate is better, and be operating out of Australia, because in India, the army is a very respectable career. And if you were to open that up, not only would you be opening up to language barriers, okay, but cultural barriers as well, with them assimilating with Australia. They've showed that, we love our Indians, we love our food, we love our Uber, but we don't like our phone scams. But you would end up with 1 million people trying to come in at a moment in an effort to get 30 million people into our country as their new place of residence. So you've got to be very careful what you offer based on the population and the opportunity for them to improve their life overnight. They'd absolutely go for it. Caribbean and Americas. Okay, we've got Canada. They're invited. They already are. And that's it from there. Europe, Cyprus, Malta, United Kingdom are allowed. Australia, we're already here. Fiji, I think Fijian soldiers should absolutely be allowed to come here. Absolutely. New Zealand are allowed to come here. I see New Zealand and Fiji as our brothers, Vanuatu, all of these countries and our Polynesian countries, I think have a genuine claim to be able to come to Australia and, again, be part of it. So just so you know, by opening this up to Commonwealth, you're opening it up to 2.5 billion, applications. So you've got to be very careful. Make sure that there is no country, there's any sort of language barrier, under no circumstance should be allowed to. Okay? Yeah. And that's not trying to be a prick, team. Okay, let's get to this. Bam. So let's go to your questions first. Okay, so I did my GOA on the 28th and am now awaiting my defence interview. How long do you usually have to wait between JOA? JOA. Clarify, JOA. Sorry, mate, I'm having a bit of a brain fart at the moment. Connor, I work with an Indian bloke, awesome guy, but lied and made up qualifications to come here. Yep. And they are the tip of the iceberg, and we'll get on with those with some pointed questions in a minute. A whole issue isn't being fixed. You're exactly right, concerned Aussie, and I'll be talking about that in a moment. They need to bring in mandatory sentencing for 18 and over. I don't know where that is with this subject. If people love their country, they will serve. Yep, but people won't be coming here because they love Australia necessarily, so you need to make sure you pick properly. Remember, if you bring in Islamic people, normally they're not loyal to the country, they're loyal to their religion first every time. So if you're fighting another Islamic country, you want to make sure you get the right people applying. Okay, so let's have a quick look at this. The government has shed light on its plans to allow non-citizens to join the Australian Defence Force. I think this is going to be a flop, and I'll tell you why. The Defence Personnel Minister, Matt Keogh, initially claimed people from any country would be eligible. Big mistake, 2.5 billion people. Okay, so remember that. The government has since clarified it'll be the Five Eyes, so that'll be New Zealand, UK, USA, Canada, and that's fair enough. Where they've stuffed up is what we're about to say now. The government has clarified its claim that all permanent residents will be eligible to join the Australian Defence Force as of 2025. So what they're asking is that if you were part of the Five Eyes, other than in New Zealand, probably people are here, and I'll be saying something on New Zealand here in a moment, which I think would be catastrophic for their army. Where are we? Okay, that we need to be careful of, that we don't hurt New Zealand with this scheme as well. Hey, Love Sharma, how you going, mate? His actual name is Love. Fantastic guy. We spoke for over an hour the other day, and it was an absolute pleasure. Job opportunity assessment. I was in any country. Next minute, China then tries to send its citizens over to infiltrate. Okay, they're already doing that, and them to do that. Have a look how many of them, if you go down to Canberra, are in and around sensitive sites. You'd be flabbergasted. Also beside every Chinatown, there is the Bank of China, where Australian money is funneled straight out of our country without going back into our economy. It is the most disgusting thing you've ever seen, and it's allowed to happen. In government announcement earlier this year that non-citizens will be able to join the ADF for the first time as part of national defence. But it's people that are already in Australia. We should be actually recruiting 2 people in USA, in Canada, in the UK, come to Australia. Come over, we will pay for the ticket, just like the lateral scheme that we've already had with England for decades. Come over, they get a business class flight over here with their family. They get to keep rank. They're already normally people that have done 20 years, normally hold the rank of sergeant, corporal minimum, or warrant officer. So you've already got skilled people coming in, speak the language, family, everything, have a pension, they're good to go. But while promoting the policy, the scope of the plan became a lot bigger, and questions were raised around eligibility. Here's how ADF eligibility has been expanded, who will and won't be able to join.
What you're doing.
Eligible to join, it's the Five Eyes.
I see myself just being a leader amongst my crew,
soldiers, sailors and aviators.
I see myself staying as an AA until I retire. It's a big statement.
But that's been an ongoing struggle for the Australian Defence Force, confronting a shortage of 5,000, the Defence Minister opening the door in an attempt to grow the ranks.
We are crossing the Rubicon of allowing non-citizens to join the Australian Defence Force, but I would say it's a very limited step in this direction.
The first step from July, New Zealand permanent residents who've been in Australia for at least a year will be eligible. Next year it opens up to people from the United Kingdom, United States and Canada.
Yes and no.
Nations in the Five Eyes intelligence. The focus from there on Pacific nations, though the government initially said
It'll apply to other Five Eyes countries and permanent residents
You've got to remember more than half
Later forced
Australia
to
is
clarify.
now overweight.
Starting with New Zealand, moving to Five Eyes, and then with a focus on
actually
Pacific
exist
Islands, and we'll
physically,
get that
mentally.
bedded down before we look at where this may
Both
go.
stands make
Raising
the ADF an
questions about foreign
aspirational
nationals in
organisation
the
again.
force
Yep.
and the
You can-
ire of the
I like this.
opposition.
It's a dog's breakfast. We're up to
You can
version
catch more
4 or
flies for pain
5,
than sloths
and we're not even
who-
up to
who
the
can't
nightly
do
news.
push-ups.
Those
We need
eligible
to
will
up
need
the
to
standards,
pass
not lower
background
the
and
standards.
security
But what we need
checks,
to do,
not
the
have
hand in the
served in
glove,
a foreign military
the
for
fist
2
in the arse,
years,
the fart back
and
in the
able to attain
nose,
Australian
is
citizenship
make
after
sure
90
that
days
we
of
make it
becoming a
such
member
an
of the
appealing
ADF,
career,
with a target to
long-term,
recruit
long-term,
350
that when
personnel
people
a
come in,
year.
they are
The
lining
security
up.
vetting
They've got their
processes
hand up there
that will
going,
be
I will
applied.
do anything.
Is there a return of service
I will get on the
obligation
treadmill.
on these people?
I will
There
go
are
from
no bounds
Lizzo
that they
to
won't cross
whatever
in
you
order
wanted
to
to
run a
look
scare
like
campaign
to get in.
and
And
blow
then we go,
any
okay, again, no
single
females in
whistle
combat
that they
force.
can find.
That should be one of the first
Experts
stands
have
we do.
welcomed the plan and say it's
Bring it
unlikely
back.
the government
And
will
then from there,
name
make it a
countries
place
not
people want to
included.
go.
I don't think you will see the government
National
rule
Service
out any
will have
countries, given the
selection
geopolitical
requirements.
circumstances.
No,
think
I don't think
background
it will.
checks be
It's called
key
National
and a
Service
key
for a
element to
reason.
this.
It's
Much of the
blanket.
confusion has
You will be
overshadowed
doing
the
it.
bigger
It's one of
problems
those
facing
things.
the ADF. The government knows this
you're
is just
talking
part
over
of
video
addressing the
and- oh, shit, sorry.
shortfall if it has any chance of reaching the target of 80,000 uniformed personnel.
Welcome to 7:30. Richard Miles, welcome to 7:30.
Okay. What video? There's no video playing, mate. There's no video playing anywhere. Okay. Yeah. All right, here's some questions for you. All right, first one. So we've already worked this one out. Which countries qualify to enlist and why? The Five Eyes. Canada, UK, Australia, naturally, New Zealand, and USA. The Five Eyes. So they all speak English. They've got shared Christian values, nationalism, patriotism, etc. There has to be a reason why they're coming over here. And I believe a big piece of honey for this one would be the Donald Trump or capitalism, conservatism versus woke leftism, liberalism, or capitalism versus what's it called? Marxist ideas and ideology across the world. A lot is going to happen, okay, in November in that election. And if we create a place where people say, well, stuff it, I'm out. I'm currently serving in the American Army, the Canadian Army. They've got it just as bad with Justin Trudeau. You've got people in the UK that are itching to get out of a destroyed country because of failed multiculturalism. Then we should open up some sort of way that those people, even from their military, get to come over here, soft landing in Australia. Well done. We're happy to have you. We've actually got 30,000 applicants to get through. Let's take people that are currently serving already, bridging course in Australia. Bam, solution. But there has to be some way that we can dilute their military knowledge so they come here and remember they're joining Australia. We're not joining them. Bring your skills, but have your hand up and snap. They hear the scissors cut as we get rid of their dual citizenship. You never should be allowed to be an Australian citizen without hearing snap of the scissors, as you can't go home now. Unless you don't fulfill your role. So how long should they serve for to be eligible? What happens if they can't? Do we put them in a catapult and send them home? So, which countries qualify to enlist and why them over others? Again, Christian values, English speaking, criminal record we can look at, security clearances will be a lot easier as well. Okay, and they're more likely to assimilate with Australian culture, society, laws, etc. Yep, that's a good one. Don't try and look for the evil in this team. There is no evil. What he's got to say, we are all... Love, still believe the best option is to motivate local Australians to join. I absolutely agree, Love, and we'll be getting to that in a moment because that's very, very important. Very important. 6 years, Rozzo, says Dave. That means return of service obligation if they get citizenship as their reward. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know that the Gurkhas actually sign on for 20 years, so I don't think 6 is a big deal. And I'll tell you now, what Dave just said then, years for one of your sons to come over and become an Australian citizen that creates a pathway for 4 or 5 people to come over and actually have a better way of life, a secure way of life, and a dynasty that travels with them is nothing, the bare minimum that you can do to the nation that accepts you, that may be feeding you and looking after you forever. Okay, one of the stipulations we're going to need to be very, very careful of is that we don't bring people over with people with special needs from other countries that will be in Australia's economic refugee sort of status, that you end up paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to look after their family, you know, if they can't hit those bills and they become a boon on Australia and have one person achieve 6 years here, but then multi-millions of dollars of NDIS taxpayers to look after. So we've got to be careful of that. Okay, how many do we need? What is a favourable dilution? What do I mean by that? You cannot have too many UK. You cannot have too many USA. You cannot have too much Canadian or New Zealand in one area where it becomes an enclave, which actually takes away where they can with each other and become a mini culture within a military situation. One of the dangers of that is the beautiful people of Fiji, they have their rank. They also have tribal titles and positions where you may be below someone in rank, but still you have cultural stepping on toes. So you have to be aware of that. So how many do we need? If we need 30,000, you know, how do we dilute that so that it's still Australians that are in our army, you know, and it doesn't end up where we end up being outcast from our own organisation, especially if they come with rank. That's a danger. I've caught UK soldiers before trying to teach UK doctrine to Australian soldiers because that was just easier for them to do, smooth muscle memory. I wasn't a fan of it, you know, and a good warrant officer mate of mine called him out for it because I was a sergeant at the time. And yeah, where do they commence training if they are previously serving soldiers? Now, this is a question you just may not understand how it works. Luckily, I do. Maybe patriotic guys and girls should move here and we can build a good old boy nation again. As long as they love the country, willing to fight for the country, and they're here to be law-abiding, you know, and to make, you know, a beautiful new start for their family, I'm absolutely happy to have them. Treat them, give them a cricket bat, give them a football, give them a tennis ball, you know, give them an AFL ball and go just choose one of them because that's part of your new culture. What's the food that you can cook the best? You come into the barbecue, don't sneak in here with a motherfucking free, those 6-pack sausages, those small sausages, or expect us to tip you. Don't bring tipping. Couple of snags. There you go. No, there's no bare minimum. Okay, so where do they commence training? So let's just say that you get a soldier come here from the USA. The weapons, completely different. The tactics, completely different. Rank system, completely different. Every single thing about the US coalition force is different. But you can't exactly just get them to go to Kapuka if they've already held the rank of what they would call sergeant, we would call lance corporal, etc. So there has to be some sort of bridging course taught by infantry soldiers, no fucking politics, and get those soldiers trained, assimilated into a unit nation in Australia, as well as a hosting family, a billet for a while, so that guy absolutely feels part of the team and is taught 100 things that don't need a goddamn certificate for him to be here. He gets a blue book or a red book, something similar to the blue book that you'll get after you get out of Kapuka and Singo, Singleton School of Infantry. G'day to the guys that are there right now. Let us know if you're watching. Gallipoli platoon especially, and Cam. But what should happen is they tick those off and then they are able to do that assimilation into a unit, sponsored unit. It might even be a rifle company that's actually becomes a training company, and 60 soldiers come in there just like they're in the Ukraine, and they get taught how to do weapon conversion, rank structure, customs, traditions, you know, things they need to know, and they're brought up. So there's only one of them in each section, you know, for 2 weeks doing like work experience sort of shit. and they go out field and learn all these little things, getting ticked off all the time and becoming the best copper, best buddy, best battle buddy. And those guys, you've changed their life. You haven't disrespected their training. They've got a way that they can input to yours as well. You've got to keep them outnumbered. Otherwise, if they're a dominant personality, leadership, etc., then it may become a problem, because combat soldiers always have a cult of charisma and personality. So you'll be battling with that. That's absolutely sure. Next one. What incentive do we offer foreign soldiers? This is a good one. This is a good one, if I do say so myself. That may be above what we offer our own and current future serving countrymen. We can't give them something that is better than what you get. So what's my answer for that? Well, I'm glad you asked me, comments. That is, we need to completely change the incentives for someone to join the Australian Army from Australia, because if we do that, then what might happen is we might end up with people going, we don't need foreign soldiers now, because now we've made it such a place that people want to call home and call it a career instead of working for Starbucks and getting nanoplastics in their bloodstream from drinking out of their cups, that we end up solving the problem. Exactly what was stated just before. Where are we? Sniper Pro. I've been into Australian mill sim operator. That's why I have a picture the way it is. Okay, no worries. Ed B. Jr., where is he? Ed B. Jr., come on over. Why is this even an issue? I don't see China and India importing foreigners to replace local workers. Yeah, well, their army's full. You know, in India, it's extremely hard to get into the Indian Army. Jungle BJJ team. G'day, mate. How you going? My problem is how many foreign intelligence agents are going through here without us knowing. Yeah, we've just got to make sure that we stick with the Five Eyes and potentially look at who else comes in after that and what sort of drama that brings. So what was I saying that we can do for Australian people? All right, here's some things I came up with. When Australians join, we've got to make sure you don't front end the benefits at the start. So people come in, wolf in sheep's clothing, take the benefits, and then ultimately skip out, can't do it, fail, quit, and then get all those benefits up front. So when they first come in, the bare minimum time someone should come in for should be between 6 and 20 years. Now, I'd say 6 years. 6 to 10 years would be a good rozo. We need to get enough out of them that it is worth our time as well, that they realise they're the ones that are lucky here. We need them, sure, but let's make them feel lucky to be coming as well. Now, Australian soldiers, I do believe there should always be some sort of home or land ownership should be minimum for a man or woman that's done 20 years service in the Australian Army. That should be a minimum. And I've got heaps of ideas. I could dive deep on that one. There should also be some sort of bonus at some period of time, and there should be what that time is. It's 15 years, a year's pay when if you're a sergeant before 15 years, which everyone is these days, because people even aren't qualified to getting promoted because of the what we've created. But there has to be some sort of financial benefit, okay, in some area without making our people mercenaries. There has to be something after Army to do with study, a down ramp that takes them into other industries that they know when they're at either the 10, 15 or 20-year period, that they absolutely are given benefits in recruiting organisations that take them directly and then put them into these other areas and catapult them to the success. And it should be like some sort of thing that already has Aboriginal cooperation with teams. Could be something that you can show that you're also giving jobs to Army, Air Force, Navy, Police, Fire Brigade, AMBOs, nurses, AMBOs. Okay. Give those some sort of accreditation, where you might get some benefit to your business for giving one of them a job. Okay. With that, I believe that every soldier that has done 15, maybe 15, but definitely 20 years, a gold card. That's like getting free private health for the rest of your life, and it normally comes with about $556, I believe, a fortnight. cash injection, which means that you could be barista fire, which is early retirement, based on your investments that you make in the military. So that would be a good way to offset that. But inflation, as we know, is also going out of control. Legion, I love your name. We have, let's get up here so I can see it properly. We have jails with blokes that would give everything for a chance at a second shot. I don't think we've come that far yet. A fair few of the boys fighting at Kokoda Trail were convicts, mate. Yeah, I'm not ready for that yet. Yeah. Probably because I also don't believe in our judicial system. Yeah. I also don't believe in our representation in Parliament, which makes this very dangerous on who they choose can actually come and do our military when none of them fucking serve themselves. Well, they definitely serve themselves. Bring back the old guys, Dad's Army style. When I joined the 80s, we were trained by Vietnam veterans. Their experience was invaluable. We retained the senior NCOs in any capacity. Yeah. There's a lot of, there is definitely a lot of benefit to that experience, but they need to be still up to date with what they're watching, so they don't actually teach something that's easy to teach that they used to get. There's good to knows, but then there's actual training objectives that have to be up to date. My dad knew you in Turia. His name was Kirby. Green Cobra. G'day to your dad. Officer salute there. I don't go off first names, man. So I'd have to know what his last name is to remember him, but say g'day to him, duty first, and I hope that we were mates. Do you imagine if they put politicians on the national service? That'd be funny. They'd find a way out of that, my friend. Okay, what's the next one? This is an interesting one. What is the term of service, and what if they cannot meet the obligation? Are they sent home on a catapult? Well, as I stated before, well, the thing is, if you go and join, okay, and you get that citizenship, that's a massive thing to get. Okay, but at the same time, it gives you all these benefits. But what if after 8 weeks you go, I don't want to be here anymore? But we've also gone snip on your dual citizenship, and you say, well, I can't go home now, so I'm here to stay. We all know that almost every foreign student that comes over from a developing country says they want to study here, but that's not what they want to do. They're immigrating here. We're seeing the same all across the Five Eyes. Okay? Very, very seedy. Okay, so what's the term of service? How long do you reckon? 6 years? 10 years? You've got to get the blood out of the stone with these people, but you want them to do it willingly. So even when it gets to that Rosso of service, you've done the right thing because they're going, I want to stay in even longer. What about compulsory retirement for Australians, and that includes these individuals at the 20-year mark with a pension, okay, and a gold card. So there's some sort of governmental pension they've got and a gold card where they can go, well, I'm going to go and work in a coffee shop now, talk to people. I'm going to go and do Uber now or Uber Eats, whatever I decide to top that up. Don't have to do it. I've got enough to live, especially in Kaz's housing program that he reckons would be a good idea. Let's do that. 6 years, 10 years, yeah, I reckon that's okay. But it should be snapped shut if they fail. What happens if it's a serendipity moment and they're injured? That's a different story, isn't it? What do you guys got to say? If they quit, they have to go work in the factory that makes the jam biscuits. Everyone wins. Good one. Probably agree with that. I might have been following Channel for a while. Is that number one? That's pretty arrogant. He must want to be an officer. For a while, just today, signed national police check, preferences and information waiting for the next steps. 36 years old, still possible. Absolutely still possible. Absolutely. You need to ask yourself, you need to be realistic. If I was you, mate, I would definitely get involved with this one like I would for everyone. There's the Patreon number there. If you go down to Patreon, it only costs the price of a cup of coffee a month. You get a one-on-one conversation with myself and we work our way through our case. So for you, number one, you need to determine, or regular army? And also what corps do you want to do? Remember, we've got someone at Kapuka right now who's 54 years old. But because he was realistic with what he could offer, he was realistic with his corps choice, they allowed him in. You're 36. All I'd say is look at yourself in the mirror and remember, the best you've got to offer is behind you, not in front of you. But 36 is a pretty normal age for Army Reserve. I don't know what you do if you've got a family. I don't know what you do as a crust at the moment. But 36 is absolutely fine in the Army Reserve. And there is so many skilled individuals in Army Reserve that get so much from it. And you'll see that I believe that Army Reserve is the #1 job for the best side hustle for anyone if they want to make $1 million in a 30-year period. Legit. #1 watched a march out vid a couple of days ago. The guys marching out, some of them are definitely middle 40s. I probably wouldn't be surprised, mate. Last name is Kirby. In ranks was Warrant Officer Class 2, Kirby. It does really sound familiar. Just in case you don't know, I've basically got a mental blank. You're only able to be able to operate with a certain amount of names. And because I already knew thousands of people within my military career, and now I've known tens of thousands of people through YouTube, it's a complete scramble. So it's no disrespect when I don't know who I'm talking to. When I see people, I go, okay, yep. But other than that, it can be very, very confusing for me. Okay, here we go. So Condor 13 Bravo says, I think it's overall a bad idea. If they wanted, they could move, get a citizenship and sign up. Yeah, but what we don't want, this shouldn't be a charity thing. What we want is to get some really good people. And with this election in November, I think there will be people from the UK that are going, I want a fresh start. I think there'll be people in Canada going, it's too goddamn cold over here. The snow is not cool when you live in it. I'd go to Australia because Canadians are just weird speaking Australians after all. US, I think there's a lot of them that'd like to come over here, especially if you told them, even if you've got your father's looks, Australian women are addicted to every man that's not Australian, and having an accent. And if you're Black American, gee, you'd be a king over here. If you're African American and you come over here, you can write your ticket home. You'd better have some condoms. You're going to need them. And then you've got to remember too that we're the highest paid army in the world. So if you went from New Zealand, I'll go on to this one quickly. One of the first things that was said to me when I went over to New Zealand on exchange as a section commander, then ultimately was the sergeant for the platoon, where I met one of my best friends for life from the 2nd 1st Battalion, the Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment, where their tie here, kura, takihi, oh shit, fuck. Sorry, General. Look at this, it's the sexiest tie you've ever seen. This is the 2nd 1st Battalion's tie, takihi puni. I don't need to look at it, I know it. Bam. That is a tie. That is beautiful. That is their battalion tie. I love those guys. Yep. But when I went over there and I was in their platoon, and then ultimately, because we didn't have a platoon commander, was the commander of that platoon commander, platoon sergeant. What ended up happening was we were warned before we went over there, do not talk about pay and conditions, because the Australian Army is paid so much more than a New Zealand soldier that if they were to know that they could defect over to the Australian Army, their life jump in conditions, pay and conditions, everything would be phenomenal, and we'd lose all our soldiers. Our New Zealand brothers, fantastic soldiers, absolutely, pleasure to have them. But we've got to be careful we don't hurt New Zealand as a nation by creating a slip and slide that comes from their country to ours, and then they lose their ability to protect themselves. But yeah, New Zealand, big incentive, come over here. The pay conditions, fantastic. Okay, great, Brenny. Let's face it, this is one world government's ploy to dissolve nations. Yep, I think that. Think of why they screwed it up so much to put the proposal in place. I'm not buying it. And that's why I get very nervous, Brady, and you absolutely can smell a rat in this, that I think there is an opportunity that this would initially look like Five Eyes that everyone would agree with because we're all part of the same security pact, coalition partners, allies, etc. But what happens? This is what happens, my man. No sooner do they get in, then all of a sudden that rule happens and we see this, Brady. We start seeing this. 2.3, 2.5 billion people, and then all of a sudden the HR, which is almost always left-leaning, starts to bring in countries that suit them, but don't suit Australian culture. And all of a sudden, we don't have an Australian army anymore. We don't have people that want to fight and die for the nation or capable of fighting and dying for the nation. And we end up with basically a pizza supreme pizza where every topping is something that you throw on the window. The dangers. So, Brady, I think you're all over it. How can you sell to people who can't be bought? The Fresh Prince, fuck them. They just don't come. You'll never know. If they're not interested, you just never know. 95% of Australians, aren't in the military, are they? Well, 99.9%, pretty much. I'm not offended by that. I'd be offended if someone's not willing to fight if Australia's getting attacked. That's for sure. Damon. Okay, so I have really severe far-sightedness. Will defence cover surgery? If I'm going into, you won't get a combat role if you've got far-sightedness. Do you mean you can't see far sight? You can't see distances? We pretty well need you to be able to do that. That's probably a key function is eyesight within infantry, especially or combat roles. If you've got nearsightedness that you have trouble that need glasses to read, I think they look past that, and that's in one of the 4 points where they've reduced some of the medical requirements for service within the Australian Army. I believe they're looking over that. I'm in the cadets. My rank is corporal. Okay. No worries. Keep that to yourself if you go to join the Army, Green Cobra. It's great. Cadets is a fantastic thing. Keeps you off the streets, gives you a little bit of law and order, some customs and traditions. But, yeah, keep that a secret when you go to join the military if you do. Money, that's it. Here we go. This is a good one from Dave. Money is not the answer. Money doesn't bring capable people. No, it doesn't. But what does bring people is if you actually give them something, a hand that allows them to elevate their entire family, to bring them over to a country for a second start if they believe their own country is going to shit in a handbasket. You know, what a man will do to elevate his family, there is no measure to that. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Hey, White Actual. G'day, mate. How you going? If you haven't subscribed to him, let's get some subscribers in here. Concerned Aussie, the Fresh Prince. Has anyone seen Carl P? Jacob Palmer. There he is. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Bam, Jacob Palmer. Good to see you, mate. Right, do you want to watch this video or not? Where are we? We don't actually have to watch it, but give us a look. Do you want to watch it? Because what this seems like is an attack of the ABC. Okay, we've already said this one. Why we could never open this up to the Commonwealth country, and this might actually insult some people. That doesn't matter, because if they knew what we're talking about, they'd absolutely understand that with their Commonwealth countries, we would lose our country if we open this up to countries like India, etc. You know, that doesn't mean someone that's in Australia that's Indian can't join. Absolutely, there's heaps of Indians in the Australian Army. You know, but you can't open it up like a come to our country to a country that has 1.4 billion people. You know, it'd be insane. Right. So you just want to watch it, right? Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, you know what, Mr. Actual, fuck the ABC. I totally agree with you. But watch the way, now you're forewarned, watch the way this chick attacks the minister and see what happens. Hey, call YouTube. Mate, I thought people would stop giving us donations. You know, I'm almost out of coffee money completely. For those that don't know, I lose about $1,100 a day at the moment as one of the micro share cap shares is going down horrifically, and it has been since Biden got in. Enjoy a cup of coffee, says Kyle. Bam, Nutsu, cow, white warrior. What do they mean? He's kicking in a wall. The wall was coming out all around him. White warrior, Nutsu, cow. Thank you, sir. So we're going to watch this for a second. Look for this attack from ABC. This doesn't sound like an impartial person. Let's do it.
Now, Defence Personnel Minister Matt Keogh said today from 1 January 2025, permanent residents from Five Eyes countries and, I quote, any other country, Australian Defence Force. Did he get that bit wrong?
Well, from the 1st of July, we will be opening up entry into the Australian Defence Force for New Zealand citizens who have been permanent residents for a year. And then from the 1st of January, that will be extended to Five Eyes countries. That's the decision that we've taken. But we do have an eye beyond that to the Pacific, really. All of this will be having been a permanent resident for 12 months at least, and obviously passing all the security checks which would apply to any Australian who joins the Australian Defence Force. So that's the decision that we've taken, and it's actually it's a significant Rubicon that's been crossed by government policy today, but we're working this out in a very kind of slow and considered pathway, and right now it is New Zealand, and it's Five Eyes from the beginning of next year.
He said any other country, so did he get that wrong?
Yes, he got it wrong. And there'd better not be this as a here's the hand and underneath it is the real goddamn agenda. Because if they do that, the actual patriots that serve our Australian nation so well right now, you may lose the rest of them.
Well, we've made clear that a precondition, which is what Minister Keogh has been talking about, is that you have permanent residency for a year in order to qualify for this. But
it's too long. It is too long. You can't ask someone to come over here with no job for 1 year just as a proviso to get into the Australian Army. Bullshit. They should be able to do the security check from the Five Eyes that gets done in Australia with credible reference that is backed up by a police check, and then those individuals come over, and when they come over, they're already signed their papers in that country of those Five Eyes through the through the embassy. It is a legal document that everything they do and say, it is now a legal document. And should they come over under false pretense or fraud, like Troy Thompson, the mayor of fucking Townsville, they should have to pay every cent to get the family back on the cheapest, nastiest plane with the smallest seats, itchy fabric and rotten cheese with a stale jet, and then send them home with iPads with no charge in them. Yep.
Minister Keogh, has spoken this afternoon, made really clear that what we're doing is what I've just described, which is that we are doing New Zealanders from the 1st of July and Five Eyes from the 1st of January.
It's hard to imagine anything more significant in this announcement that you're making today, that it is absolutely crystal clear who this will be targeted at. Are you ruling out permanent residents from other countries, Pacific countries?
No, because if you're a permanent resident in Australia, you can already apply for the Australian Army. That's why this seems like it's so blasted and so disingenuous. You can already do that.
Well, that's just not on the agenda. So that isn't happening. What we are talking about is New Zealand on the 1st of July, the rest of January. We have an eye to the Pacific beyond that, to be clear, and that is the pathway that we are walking down. Now,
imagine if Taiwan did this now, because of the threat of the red corn chip to go to the only democratic part of Chinese people that are now in Taiwan, that they actually open that up and say we want coalition forces to come and join our military in Taiwan. Okay, that way when you attack Taiwan, if they do, the red corn country that has foreign ownership, interest in investments in this country, no, you're not going to come here and make those people learn Mandarin, which is a fruit that I've never liked.
No, there's all sorts of scare campaigns going on, but they are nothing other than that. This is New Zealand, Five Eyes. We have, in a more medium term, a view to the Pacific, and that's what we are seeking to do here. But the reason we are doing this is because challenge.
2 seconds, intermission, time out. I believe this is Liam. Hi, Mr. Caslan, everyone. Just want to say hello from me and Dad. This is Steve Bryce's son, I believe. Mate, how is your father? And I don't mean Darth Vader. Liam, let us know. Can you please put this down while we're all here? Everyone's a fan of your dad. We know he's going through some really, really hard times. We just announced that before. Mate, can you give us an update, please? Can your dad communicate? Is he able to talk at all? We're not going to ask him to get on the phone, but is he okay? Please type that in. Let us know. We need to know.
In terms of recruitment and retention in the Australian Defence Force, and we are, but it's not just turning it around. We are looking to grow the Defence Force through to 2040, and in order to do that, we do need to be looking at a wider pool of people, and this is something.
Okay, all right. I don't believe this. Islam is nothing to be afraid of. It's a radical indoctrination, and the extremists we need to be worried about. Yeah, okay, but which ones? If you can't tell which ones, and we use this Palestinian rallies as an example, sorry, I'm not convinced. Remember, I've lived in the Middle East and I love a lot of my Islamic friends, but they also need to police their own problems and they need to find a solution to the bullshit that's going on.
Something that other countries do.
Yes, indeed. Let me just stay with Australia for the moment. The Shadow Defence Minister, Andrew Hastie, described it today as a half-baked idea. Were all of the details approved by Cabinet? And if they were, how did our ambiguity to creep in?
Well, this is a crystal clear position. I've just articulated it, and Minister Keogh did so this afternoon as well. I mean, in terms of the Shadow Minister, last year, Andrew Hastie was talking about the fact that we do need to be opening up the Defence Force to other citizens.
This was brilliantly put by someone a few comments before. Why don't we just do something that makes Australians want to join? We've got enough Australians. What is it? Free private medical, top tier, after 20 years with a $500 buffer. Great. A piece of land granted to them. Awesome. Somewhere where they can call home. Something for after army. That is the number one question that always comes up from people that don't want their children or try to talk people out of becoming military is, what does it give you after army? It gives you shitloads, but you don't realise it till you're in the army, then you're getting out all the job offers. I'll give you an example. The guy that used to be my commanding officer, then went on to become a brigade commander, then got out of the army, has now got someone who was a sergeant who's the godfather of my daughter working for him, calling him by his name, I'm not going to say it, first name basis. Brigade commander to a warrant officer, first name basis. And he's the one getting groomed and getting promoted by the officer. He's not working around other officers. He's going after the warrant officer. So, yeah, there you go. Yep. Here we are. Why not Kaz? Me too late. Both uncles fought for New Zealand and received a DSM. That's awesome. Why not Kaz? Me too, mate. I don't know what you're talking, Neo. You can't chuck a blanket over there. Which one? Over who? Neo, just clarify what you're talking about, mate. It looks like it's probably an interesting point. I don't put a blanket over anyone, except if they're cold. Bring over some Brazilians. No. Send them operate in favelas. No. Can't do that. No. I'm sorry. If you want to give it to a country of so many people, again, you'd end up with 100,000 applications. We've got to be careful. All right, Love Sharma, one of my favourite people. Anything that comes in between and before your duty is to be scared of. No offence, but 99% of Islam religion is before nation and duty, which is unacceptable in democratic nations. Love Sharma. And, they know. Indians definitely know the dangers of patriotism versus religious identity. Okay, this is for Brycey. He's not doing too well at the moment. He was coming a lot better, but he picked up COVID, which knocked him about really badly. I'm hoping he'll be able to come home again, but Mum says we will need to be okay. Can we get some just some well wishes in there in the comments for Steve Bryce, so he knows and his son Liam, who's getting up the lion's share of responsibility in the house, mate. What a special kid. You're a great dude, mate. And it's good to see there's actually a conversation coming out of your dad. It was pretty bleak what you said the other day. I was pretty upset for him, mate. But we're here for you, Ben. Islam. Okay, Neo, everyone we've been fighting against basically for the last 20 plus years has been Islam. Okay. The scumbags that are doing the Palestine peace parades have shown us said they're anything but peaceful. All the crimes across the world pretty much against their own populations are normally done by Islam. Their lack of tolerance for other people is significant. They are a real security threat and they don't police their own. That's the danger. I could talk about it all day, mate, all day, but they are a security threat and you know it. Do I like them? Yep. Do I respect them? Yes. I'd always prefer someone who is spiritual. I do, because it makes you feel like there is someone who's watching you, and it can make you a better citizen, But okay, we have to be careful who we arm. Who's the worst enemy of Islamic ISIS? Is other Islamic soldiers. I agree, absolutely. But this is a much deeper conversation, mate. And look, Neo, if you want to have a deeper conversation for the price of a coffee, jump on Patreon, mate. Come and have a talk with me. This is not said in a disrespectful manner, but it is said, okay, with clarification, understand I've lived in the Middle East, right? As he may never be able to come home again. You know what, but it's good that your family gets to love him and be able to drop in and give him 100% rather than him feeling like, as a man, that he's a boon on the family. So, wishing you, here we go. Wishing you well, Steve, you and the family, mate. Be strong, young brother. Thanks very much, mate. One thing I can tell you is, and I'm not out of the woods yet, is you never know the day your life changes, my man. Okay, I'm saying you can't chuck a blanket over all of Islam and be bloody afraid of all of them. I'm not afraid of any of them. Okay, I'm not afraid of any of them. But it still doesn't mean you can be cautious. No one's putting a blanket over everyone. But when Islam is patriotic to Islam, not necessarily the country, you do have to treat it with caution. We have a lot of Islamic people in the army. I have Islamic people that are on the bat phone. No problem. But we vet our friends, and we should also vet whose hands we put a weapon into. Funny enough, I put the Palestinian on the thumbnail to this video for a reason. Now, that doesn't mean shit, Kaz. The reason we failed in Afghanistan is because, no, we didn't win in Afghanistan because we weren't allowed to win. There was a reason, you know. It's because of communication. I know the threat. I've been here, Kaz. I know they are a threat. I get that. Yep. Absolutely. Hey, Jennifer G from up north. Yep. You know, we could talk about Afghanistan and that and the criminality of the way they pulled out of there from Bagra Airfield, which they should have defended. Deliberate. The fact that they allowed everyone that was ever put into prison, that prison in Afghanistan should have been hit with the J-dam and destroyed everyone inside it before we left. Now all those guys are out doing the devil's business across the world. I'd love to check out the last couple of live streams and the comment I left, please, Kaz, and then you'll understand who I am. Thanks, mate. You're a good man. You're a good guy too. And I fully encourage you, Neo, to come on here and be either the pushback or the voice of reason, you know, because this is not an echo chamber. You're absolutely welcome here, mate. And I look forward to, you know, you continuing to also educate us from different angles as well. Okay, all the best wishes to you. Yep, Christopher East. Every politician should have to have spent at least 4 years in infantry soldier before being able. Wouldn't that be funny? What else were we going to say here? Oh, geez, I'm off there. And guys, don't take, when people like Neo and I go back and forth, don't take that as aggressive. That's the way men talk to each other. You know, we communicate in a clear and concise manner where we don't hide behind hands like a lefty. We're able to communicate what we talk about. Okay? That's very important that you do. Clarity and context is the reason why we stream instead of just putting videos out that are highly edited so people don't actually understand the context. It's important that the conversation goes a bit longer and you understand why people believe what they're saying. Very important. Okay, so we've seen why we can't open up to the Commonwealth because, again, 2.3 billion people. Okay, the benefits to security by coalition representation within the ADF, but we must also drop hyphenated country citizenship. You've got to lose something to gain something. You have to feel like the country you move into actually is now your home. It's not just somewhere you work. You don't get to come here, take resort, and then just leave the country. We need to offer people a new way of life, righto? They're giving us a very, very big commitment to serve in our nation with our uniform, with the Australian flag, and when you wear it, you'll understand what happens before it. Neon, totally agree. Absolutely. Jordan Towner, left-hand salute. Here we go. Problem opening up to the Commonwealth is that the UK and Europe has had a flux of migrants that could pose a security risk. This is why I'm saying, mate, the answer to this is who comes over, preferably should come from already service backgrounds. So they're already been trained around weapons. They already have platoon commanders' notebooks from English-speaking countries that are able to follow the laws of the land, that are able to communicate straight to security checks and balances. And we have a whole report on there. So it's not just we're getting rewarded and they're getting rewarded, but Australia gets rewarded again by having people that are already proficient in what they did. It's a win-win, to tell you the truth. You know, and then, one of the sad things about China, to tell you the truth, because China could be an amazing country. You don't get to rule Russia or China by being a nice guy. It won't work over there. It won't. You know, but China, one of the biggest problems to them is they've never allowed that migrants into China. And that hurts them because then it's like you don't trust anyone to come in. And then when they come in, what's the benefit of it? You know, so their population is now, their average population, because of the one-child policy, is now far older than what can support it from their youth as it gets older and their population declines, like the rest of the Western world for that matter, that's stepping away from conservatism, spirituality, and the nuclear family. Absolutely getting destroyed by feminism and wokeist. All right, let's go back to the infra sector.
And that if citizens were coming here and willing to die for Australia, or if immigrants were willing to do that, we should be looking at them coming into our Defence Force. Andrew Hastie has gone to this place himself without much definition. This is a very clear step down this path in the way in which I have articulated it this evening, and that has been repeated by Minister.
Do you reckon this guy likes the taste of olives? Or do you reckon he does it just to fit in?
Keogh through the day. And it's a very...
Let me ask you this. So the opposition wants to know, as I'm sure everyone does, what kind of vetting checks will be conducted. Have those details been discussed yet?
Everyone that joins the Australian military has got to be cleared to secret level. You can commence training, but these guys, it is the deepest of security background checks. That's why I don't understand why no one found out what happened with our government people. What vetting do they get? What about Wong, Miss Wong? Okay, what does she do? Caught with the sticky fingers all over different pies. What sort of background check did she get? What about Troy Thompson, the mayor of Townsville? It turns out he was a 3 or 4 year Army Reserve cook who got that position with degrees that he didn't do and claimed that he was SAS for 5 years. What security background checks do politicians get? Shady bastards.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same vetting which occurs for Australian citizens, and that was made clear from essentially the terms on which people would join and participate in the Australian Defence Force will be as if they were Australian. So that means all the same vetting checks to join, and then exactly the same return of service obligations once they are members of the Australian.
No, it has to be a completely different scheme. If you come from overseas, there's none of this 4 years, 6 years, 10 years. Get some blood out of that stone, because by the time they've done 6 years, they'll have picked up all of the cultures of being an Australian, being absolutely immersed in our culture and fantastic people, absolutely. Elise, she's out of here soon. How far in are you guys? Elise, we start at 7:30, mate. It's okay. It's okay. Enjoy your last weekend or so before you're actually in the land of Shivertown. Yeah, 100 concussions. You shouldn't even be out of the hospital if you've had 100 concussions, would you, Kyle? Hell no, minimum 6 years. Absolutely. And again, we've got politicians who have never served, never been in the jungles of Tully, overseas on operations, or been around people, that lost their lives, to be able to say this is the minimum standard of what I want beside me. So again, the soldiers who are serving should have some Army Reserve soldier and the regular soldier, Navy, Air Force, Army, should have some say in who serves beside them. They matter. Oh no, he's here. AIDS Bay. Okay, so I have a job opportunity assessment Monday. I have a bit of a stutter that is only noticeable when I'm fatigued. Will this stop me from joining the ADF? I wouldn't imagine so. It would if you're going to SIGs, mate. If you're going to SIGs, it definitely will. Have you thought about getting into rap? Yeah, I wish I could. Nah, it should be fine, man. Yeah, Neo, went on Crusades. Yeah, but the Crusades were a response to, a murderous religion that was attacking unarmed people on pilgrimages. Neo, so the reason I didn't put that other comment up for long was so this doesn't end up with a debate between Christianity and Islam. Yep. What's crazy is that for a company like ASC, shipbuilding in South Australia, a migrant can work for them for a visa with minimum security checks, yet has to get NV1 and NV2 vetting. Absolutely. Yep. And that was mirrored also by Jordan down the bottom, hyphenated. In the army, we call that two fathers, two dads. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. You're not going to get any answers out of this. At the end of the day, I believe this is initially going to be an offer to the Five Eyes. But I believe if the Labor Party gets anything behind this, they're going to sleazily allow people from overseas to come in and maybe put a hole through the whole system. Question there, White Maz 3, good name, is do these politicians get advice off real soldiers? No, they don't. They don't actually hear anything from a soldier. And not these so-called decorated generals who can't even run their own departments. Yep. I think it's time for the Australian Army to have a complete reformation. We've shown now that the problem with the Australian Defence Force is always the leadership. The leadership, if they can't deal with Gen Z, step out of the way, let someone in that can do the job. I believe that there should be promotions from to the officer class from the OR class. However, we also need to expand our army, and we need to have a look at the damaging effects of special forces is having on our only infantry regiment. Now, when you've got two different groups of special forces that are offering a better world for those of the Royal Australian Regiment, what that does, it takes every single one of our best soldiers where leadership at the grassroots level that has absolute physical and moral courage and excellence. And as soon as they achieve that state, they're taken away, which then steals from the intellectual property as well as the physical leadership of the Royal Australian Regiment, the cutting edge of our combat soldiers. So there's a problem there. Do we need SAS? Yes. Do we need commandos? I believe so, yes. But there's a problem. There is a problem, and our army is cannibalizing itself. The best recruiter is US vets, word of mouth. Says God, he'll be forever. Yeah, okay. I think the ADF needs everything, needs everything, not, what I said? I think the ADF needs everything, not just people. We've got some cutting edge equipment, but we're going to get it in 2040. That's probably too late, eh? Accept everyone or judge them. I judge everyone. Yep, on their actions. I judge people on their actions today, not on their mum, not on their dad, and not on their history. Absolutely not. This is something for your team. I believe that every single one of us, it's a goddamn miracle we even exist. Every single one of you, regardless of religion, regardless of where you've come from or where you live, the fact that you live at all is an absolute bloody miracle, because all the way through your tree of ancestors, the only reason you're here is because your ancestor at one stage of their life hid under the right house, hid under the right bush, escaped the conquerors who were coming from who said enemies were at the time. If they'd gone left instead of right, you wouldn't be here now. It's a miracle that any of us are here. What does our generation put themselves all around now? One of the biggest cutting issues is abortion. To work on the app process. Absolutely. The recruiting, we need to look at our own area first, and this needs to be by people similar to myself who get to talk to General Stewart, so he actually hears people that have a vested interest, that hear the voices of those that haven't got something to lose. You're not going to hear it from officers who need to get to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. The soldier doesn't get a chance to say anything, and when he does, can be held accountable. Yeah. It's unfortunate to see what happened. We have mass failings in our recruiting system. What was that one? I'll get to that in a second. Market Writer says WW3 is coming, World War III. What I would say is it's already here, but we don't recognise it because it's internal. Our countries don't have leadership. America, the blue ribbon nation of the world, does not have leadership unless Trump gets back in. This is a world election you're about to see. It is Marxism versus capitalism. You'd better hope that Marxism doesn't win, because if it does, we're all fucked. Yeah. Hey, Kaz, question for you. If you were still enlisted, would you treat someone that enlisted from a foreign background as someone enlisted to become that enlisted with a foreign background as someone that enlisted to become Australian? Would I treat someone different? Absolutely not. This is why I don't like anything in the Australian Army having anything to do with Aboriginal insignia. No flags flying for Aboriginals, none for Torres Strait Islands. There should be one flag, and that is the nation's flag. I don't believe in apartheid. We don't separate people. We don't cause division. If you are Aboriginal, you are my brother. If you're an Aboriginal female, you are my brother. What I mean by that? We're just soldiers. Doesn't matter where you come from. All I want to know is that you've been through the same ordeals, the same crucible that I have to get to where I am. You have the same qualifications, and your qualifications are honest. That's all I care about. I love diversity. Australians are really, really bad at cooking. Really bad. We need all the good cooks we can get. I don't give a shit what country you are, what religion you are. All I care is that you love the Australian nation, and that you're a kind person with the potential to be dangerous to people that aren't. That's all I care about. Could not give a shit. And you know what? I've slept with someone of almost every colour at least twice. Yeah. And maybe I'll do it again. I think it's a straw man what people think is going on. That everyone's against people. It seems like the only people in this world that can be considered racist is white men, and only if they're heterosexual. It's a fucking joke. What have we got here? John Aaron Hara Mondragon. Now, that sounds like a good name. Does he like us or hate us? Thanks to the Trenches with Kaz. I finished the Kapuka last week. I'm in IETs right now. Kapuka is really, really hard, but many people help me. Thanks for the tips. I think I saw you there one time. John, absolutely fantastic here. Kicking goals. Looks like you've got our IETs. Whereabouts, mate? No, you don't need to let us because you've got your name up there. Okay. JS13 says he remembers you. You were in Bravo Company. Bam. Well done, mate. Not too cow. I hope you're doing well. IETs, it has a perception it's easier because you can talk to your corporals like section commanders, but at the same time, you're also held to a higher account. So make sure you surround yourself with good people. If you get an opportunity to get out and get into town, go and do that. Is the sound going? Hello? Is it me you're looking for? Let's have a look at settings for a sec, just in case it has. How's that one, team? Okay, it's back. Right. I can't believe we weren't talking today. I can't believe we can't talk about, that we haven't been talking about the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Those gallant men, more than 1 million people mobilised to attack at the 5 beaches in America. Okay, there was 5 beaches. Okay, Omaha. Okay, there was Utah. There was Sword. There was Juneau. And there was another one. Carl P's dad, grandfather, okay, he fought at Sword, I think he was at. So to all those guys, 10,000 coalition forces lost their lives that day. 10,000 Germans lost their lives as well. And one of the only reasons why it was so successful was because, again, Rommel was off getting the Fraulein to suck in the Dickenhausen while he was eating Belgian chocolate. I can cook for you guys, market riders. Mate, you should see this. At 50% of the time, it's a woman's job to be in a goddamn kitchen. The other 50% of the time, it's mine. This is what we cooked today, team. That is Mongolian beef and chicken cooked twice. What does that mean? that means that we actually velvet the meat. I've told you about it before. Fantastic. Ladies, if you want to come in for one night and have some of my Mongolian, you know, you can. Everyone's job should be able to cook. There's only two people. There's those that can cook and those that just won't. That's it. Yes, lest we forget, Roger Benjamin, absolutely. Okay, for all of those that lost their lives, as we're about to get out of here in a second, what I'd like to say to all of those that either fell on D-Day, okay, which started the end of the end, what an amazing group of men they were. Okay, let's let them know that they shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old, and age shall not weary them as the years condemn. And at the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will, lest we forget. You know? Remember, a lot of those guys are still laying beneath the terra firma in the fields. You know, bodies never found. So to the mothers, it's sad that they're not alive to know that their son never came home. Very sad. Food is offered at Kapuka coming from a Chinese background. What? What food is offered at Kapuka coming from a Chinese background? Oh, just bland stuff. Apparently the food's actually pretty good. It's mostly like you'd expect to get on a cruise ship or Sizzler, I'd imagine. Just mass produced. I love Chinese food, but not chicken feet. You guys really, Chinese food in Australia is fantastic, but as soon as the Chinese cook it and then they go for that tapas version of feet, you know, gizzards and all that sort of shit like you get served in Canberra, it's horrible. Liam says, good night, Mr. Caswell and everyone. Dad just gave a thumbs up when I told him I was logging off. So I think he was saying good night to you as well. Thanks for all the best wishes. Bye, Liam. Mate, to your father, you know, a senior NCO of the Royal Australian Regiment, you know, cut down before his time, you know, but being followed up by an amazing son. You know, if there's ever anything your family needs, mate, you need to let us know. Liam, if you ever want to have a communication, let's do that. Absolutely. Respect for the way you are holding your family up, mate. You're a good lad. We couldn't ask for anything more of you, mate. You go and have some time with him now. Go and play some Fortnite and go to sleep beside him. Good lad. Get some photos with him too, mate. Carl, Kaz, look, mate, we've got some unreserved money flowing through at the moment. Nutsu cow with a broken paw, with a bit of Kraken thrown in for those that don't know. Nutsu cow, the White Warrior. Carl P nearly got a fight with someone today at the lights out of his van. You know, spilt his small avocado coffee and brought out some vegan energy. Kaz, here is a copy on me. You can get your usual decaf, soy half strength, Nutsu cow. He's putting his order in now. Hey, Hero Buttersquash. Now, that's a good name. Briggsy. How you going, buddy? Kind of 30 meter do you fight? You do light or heavy? I've been chasing a heavy vehicle mechanic. Okay. Yeah, if we can get some good nights in there for Liam and Mr. Bryce. Guys, it's absolutely fantastic to have these conversations with you. So you walk out of here and go, okay, I've got an opinion on this. And people are able to say, okay, I never thought of it from that perspective. And quite often, just so you know, for people out there like yourself, Neo, for Jordan, Briggsy, Hero Buttersquash, I don't just jump on here and ad-lib a lot of the time. Normally I have a conversation with one of our trusted Patreon members, and I'd encourage everyone to jump on Patreon because I love talking. Is I get on there with someone who's got wisdom, someone who can bring me back off the cliff of anger sometimes when I've got a little bit too much of emotion and an axe to grind. And what happens is we normally have a half an hour to 45-minute conversation about certain topics, and I learn while I also calm down. And then what you normally see is a little bit of a more gentle pace delivery of points as I prepare for you. The problem is on Mondays and Fridays, I'm also looking after my daughter up until 6:30. So sometimes I've got to Russia shit. No one really wanted to watch the video on the finance side of things, which was the last video I put out. I think it was on Monday. You would think that something to do with making the right decisions, the right moves with finances as you go into the military and about to get money, that it'd be pretty important to look at that sort of shit before you make mistakes. Yeah. So I think it's important before we get our next video out, potentially tomorrow or the next day, but I am taking my daughter to Luna Park tomorrow. I think that people understand that you are going to get a lot of money for those that are joining the military or those that are in Army Reserve. It is very easy to get used to that wage and then spend it accordingly when you've got a rare opportunity with a hustle like Army Reserve or the Kapuka wages untouched, going into IT wages untouched. That is money that early invested as someone between 18 and 22, that might catapult you into the stratosphere with learning about money, holding back, being a little frugal, and realizing the benefits of compound interest, etc. So, guys, the only advice I try to give you is the same advice that I wish that someone had given me that didn't exist when I was younger. That's all I say on that. That's beautiful, Mr. Bryce. That's awesome. You'd probably do less than a year at Bandiana. Okay. So, guys, we've been on here for an hour and 25 minutes. You guys have been absolute saints. You know, the call-outs, the people in Singo at the moment, School of Infantry. We've got guys in Kapuka that have sent messages saying already harder than they expected, you know, and they don't mean physically, they meant mentally. Mentally harder to be not able to graduate, to be able to move your, what we call it, not be able to have any sort of agency over your time while you're at Kapuka. Just came in at the end, Crusher. It's always good to have you here, mate. Daniel Shills, going to the Olympic trials for swimming next week. Won't make it, but I've been working my butt off. How good's this? Daniel Shills is going to the Olympic trials. Won't make it, but I've been working my butt off. Joining the infantry start of next year. Can't wait to continue the family tradition. Now, I don't often do this, Daniel Shills, but can you please come to Patreon, mate? Can you please? I want someone like yourself that I can talk to about the excellence that you lived through. Okay. There's the, what do you call it? There's the Patreon link down there. I'd love to talk to you about your career, you know, with swimming, because I had the benefit of meeting the Olympic team, you know, years ago. We were at the same bar as them. We were staying at a hotel. I met a fantastic guy named Kane. This guy looked like a male model. He had abs on abs. You know, he was up against Klim and the others, but he never got in. But we're talking about parts of a second that held him from being an Olympian. But it was absolutely amazing to meet these great people, and I know how hard you guys work. He's always got this, that chlorine is like Botox. Mate, Daniel, hopefully you join the Patreon so I can talk to you. I'd love to. Yep. Can we get some thumbs up there, some well wishes for this Aussie champion who's about to step in? And if he can't get a gold medal, a silver medal, or a bronze medal, then maybe he's going to get some Australian medals. Now, which ones are more important to you, Daniel? Military medals or Olympic medals? Interesting. Interesting. Go, Daniel! All of a sudden, Elton John's in my mind. Daniel, my brother. Yeah. Hey, Neon, let's fucking go, Dan! This is weird. I don't watch the footy, barely ever. I don't watch the cricket. Sometimes I watch the darts. But I tell you what, ultra marathons and the Olympics, every time I watch the Olympics, I'm a crying mess. I end up just an emotional bitch because I know the excellence, the journey these people have been through to represent us. You know, I absolutely love it. You know, and when you see the family's emotion when they're watching their kid, and you know that just by them getting a PB on an event they've done 1,000 times in the past, in the public eye, you cannot ask anything more of that. Remember, there's a white dude who's got a body that a girl would never look at twice other than in disgust, that is a marathon runner for England or Canada or Australia, that has no chance of winning, you know, with all these Kenyan runners, but he still goes in there and she goes in there and they put in their absolute hardest knowing they cannot win. It's phenomenal, the grit these people have. I love it. Dan Dan plays badminton. Matty Chalk, you need to drink some milk, get some calcium in those bones. Going through the recruitment stage now to go into SIGs, it can take a bloody long time. It can, Chalky, and I wish it didn't, mate. You know, they need to not close the net, stay in it. Dan is already is passing excellence in the pool. Absolutely. Pretend to drown so they don't realise they've got an Olympian soon to be. No doubt you're probably going to the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Australian Regiment Amphibious Group, I'd imagine, Dan. But even swimming, we only go as the slowest person, don't we? So the shark has an even crack at all of us. Guys, have I left anyone out? I don't think so. I hope you have a great weekend. It's the King of South Wales. Enjoy your long weekend. And to the King, whether you like him or not, at the end of the day, he's 75 years old. He's still working, you know, recovering from cancer, still went and represented in France. And Joe Biden looks like he might have just ended his career because he had to get walked off the stage halfway through and looks like he'd shit himself. Looked at the same time, looked like a cross between Weekend at Bernie's as well as what else would he look like? I don't know, crash test dummy, I guess. That would put a definite catch of pigeons if all of a sudden, for medical reasons, he's out. Who's in? Will it be Michael Obama? I love that, Crusher. Thank you very much, mate. Time spent with family is never wasted. Can be expensive, but especially because I'm taking them to a nice dinner afterwards. Queenslander, says Concerned Aussie. It's already started. Waiting on a date for the defence interview for Reserve Armoured Officer entry. Have a feeling it might take a while. Emily, what I recommend is don't go and become an officer. If you go and become an officer in the Army Reserve, then you'll end up being desk monkey for paperwork. It'll take you 2 years plus to get in a position where you can actually have that role. And what it might do is make it too much of a drama rather than going in as a digger and getting involved, thrown in the mix and having a ball on you, having a great time from the very bloody start. Always remember why you're going to do it. It should be Army Reserve. If you're going to do it, it's because it's the exact opposite of what you do in civilian world. You know, so that meets into a perfect combination of your corporate life as well as your fun, rough, tackle, adventure, and mateship life. Yeah, one should compensate the other. Don't end up with two versions of the same thing. And I had that conversation with Love Sharma, you know, very, very successful man in the financial industries as well as other money, but he thought about becoming an officer, you know, when in actual fact, I believe that he would get so much more out of being around the brotherhood, the camaraderie, and the dark humor that comes at the OR level. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Roger Ramjet. Thanks, mate. V2, good to have you here too, man. Legion 117. Hey, Kaz, you never answered my question. Quick, send again. No, I can do it. Legion, go back, grab your question, click and paste, and I'll answer your question before I get off here, mate. It's important. Now, Queenslander, thanks, Kaz. As always, great info. You're a great speaker. That's what she said. Thanks, mate, and thank you very much for, you know, putting my feet to the fire a little bit too. And I totally respect your point, and there's a lot of clarity and a lot of stuff I believe in it as well. Kaz, you mentioned before that you are not ready for conscription. What about people with criminal records or ex-crims to begin with? Not talking about high-profile people. Kaz, you're not ready for conscription. I am ready for national service, yeah. But with criminals that have already had their opportunity in life, just because depending on what they've done, our judicial system, gives people who've done absolutely serious crimes, like those 150 fuckwits at the moment that have been allowed out as immigrants, illegal immigrants to our country, and then reoffended. I think 28 of them have. They should be catapulted into the ocean. If you're that much of a piece of shit, you go to another country as an illegal immigrant and then do a crime, there's only one answer, and that becomes burly. But for people that have had a rough upbringing, been around the wrong people, and unlike me, have been caught for everything they've done, then there has to be some level of, did they receive judicial justice from the family's point of view? Okay. The other one is, what are the why did they offend? Do they have a judgment problem? Is it likely to happen again? I don't automatically forgive someone that's done their time in prison. I don't. It depends on what they've done, okay, and what made them do it, and what was their motivation for doing it, and what's the likelihood it's going to happen again. And I believe that all of the facts, everything they've ever done, should be put on the table to be able to present that. Yep. There is some people that I absolutely believe, have a criminal record that goes with them that can disqualify them from military service, especially if it's alcohol related, that I believe should not be a problem and or should not be a hurdle to them getting in the military. So I'd have to say to you, Legion 117, you'd have to say, well, this is the crime I'm talking about. What do you think about that? Because there should be some sort of litmus or, some sort of scale of absolutely not to, yeah, okay, maybe. Yeah. I'm sorry, is that some sort of answer for you, Legion? I like your name. What should do is have a good one, guys. All right, team. Okay, Legion. Have you got something there? Not talking about high profile people. Yeah. Right, we're going to get out of here now. I'm just waiting to see if we've got a response from Legion there. I probably didn't answer his questions probably as good as I could. I completely agree. I ask as I have a criminal record myself. We don't know actually who you are, so can you please let us use you as a litmus stick and quickly tell us what was your record for, and then from there we'll give you a quick response. Because one of the things that will normally definitely say no if someone has anything to do with narcotics, because the Army has an absolute no, a hard no on substance abuse or alcohol-related judgment situations. Alcohol, I don't believe that should necessarily be a disqualifying factor, if not a fuckwit, on the piss. And I also believe that we're not after nuns to serve in the Army. We're after people that can be kind in public, but also able to administer extreme violence at the right time in a controlled environment. So we can't afford to be just recruiting the nicest of the nice guys. Our mouth, our conversation can be rough, but our actions should be tempered with common sense and self-control. Because I have a question, will a family member's record affect you get in? No, it won't necessarily. It can. It depends on what it is for. If it's, and we'll take, for example, one of the guys, King of King's Cross, what was his name? His brother was going through Singo at the time. Oh shit, he was from the Underbelly series. Grievous bodily harm, multiple driving offences, all between ages 16 and 19. I grew up in foster care, fell into some bad ways to excuse just a reason. I'm 30 now. Okay, that's a completely different thing. So grievous bodily harm victim is okay. That can happen quite quickly from one punch. So I understand you need to know the whole story behind that. The driving offences, okay, immaturity, I get it. 30 years old. So all I'd simply do is I'd grab you as a 30-year person and go, okay, you had those dramas when you're 16 to 19. Let's grab them at 30. Let's reverse engineer from 30 back to 25, the last 5 years. Okay, since your supposable frontal cortex is now fully developed, no excuses, what does that 5 years look like? If it's 0, I'd be going, give the man a job. What better way to get this man back on his feet if he's gone for foster care than replace foster care with a real family that's going to look after him as a brotherhood, give him every opportunity to have honour in his life? Because I tell you one thing, Legion 117, if you tell a man that he'll never be forgiven, and if you tell a man that he can never get his honour back, then you just validated whatever he does next. You know, no point in giving a fuck if I'll never be forgiven for my past. Yep. I get some crazy rides at Luna Park. Elise King, I actually hate Luna Park because my daughter hates the scary shit, so do I, but she loves the shit that spins and I get motion sickness. It sucks. Emily, there's bases here that are transition currently to provide extra training so we don't have to go east as much, but still many blocks of training must be done over east, role depending. The good thing about that, Emmy, is that you get paid a fortune to travel as well. It's called incidentals. You'll love it. They'll fly to Kapuka, absolutely. Roger, thanks, guys. Legion, I'm squeaky clean. I'll never go back. Then Legion 117, I'll tell you, absolutely, I would give you a job in my platoon. And I'd take great pleasure in hearing your stories of your life, and I'll tell you the things that I've got away with. Yeah, absolutely. And Legion 117, if you ever want to have those stories on, jump on Patreon, more than welcome. I don't judge people on their past unless it's something that keeps repeating. Has CDF resigned, or is that misinformation? No, I believe he is about to resign. And I hope that he enjoys the bed he's made for himself. You know, just remember, he's done probably a shitload of amazing things in his career too. Legion, if you've got no convictions, you should be fine. Yeah. People do change and learn from their mistakes. If you've done bad, yep. Not all. Have a good long weekend for those that are getting it. Guys, look after yourselves. Think of what it was like for the guys 80 years ago that are storming the beaches to end World War II. You know, at the same time, those guys that left the desert campaigns thinking they were coming home only to land in the jungles of Kokoda, New Guinea, and then lose their life in a bayonet assault charges to let the Japanese know the boys are back in town. So guys and gals, when we do nothing, you know, evil is allowed to exist. So have a voice, don't sit on fences, make yourself dangerous with information and stand your ground and be counted among those that you know. One, doesn't name names. Anne Frank, no, don't know where she's hiding. Not on my watch. You know, we need the right people to love this country, but also to represent it. You know, yeah. Much respect. And this, I believe, is one of the best channels on YouTube. Thank you very much. If this is your first time here, subscribe, because I subscribe to you. That's why I'm here. All right, team, take it easy. Do it to them before they do it to you. Bit of crack in there, a bit of nutsu cow. Love your family, and it's actually a pleasure. Neo, you're a good man. Carol here. Have a good one. Have a good one, brother. Neon. No deal. I'm going to be motion sick tomorrow. I can see it. See you later. Ciao. See you guys. See you later. Dare to Stevie Bryce too.